The day everything broke. If I had known my whole life was about to change, I would have stayed in the house that morning. But I didn't know. I woke up thinking it was an ordinary Saturday except for one thing. My father was lying in a coffin in our sitting room. People filled every corner of our compound. Women tied wrappers over their chests and moved around carrying coolers of jollof rice. Old men sat under the mango tree, talking in low voices and shaking their heads like goats refusing cassava. Children ran around even though Mama told them not to. Everyone came to say goodbye to Barber Emmanuel, the man they said had a big heart. I stood by the door, staring at the coffin, my palms sweating. The scent of incense mixed with fried meat and dust made my stomach twist. I was 17, but in that moment, I felt 10 years old. Mama came to me, wiping her face with the edge of her wrapper. Bisi, come and greet people. I nodded, but my legs felt heavy. Mama's eyes were swollen. She had cried all night, quietly, like she didn't want the world to hear her pain. Mama hardly cried. She was the strongest woman I knew. She woke up at 4 a.m. every day to go to her small shop by the bus stop. She carried our family on her back for years while Baba traveled for business. Sometimes he came home with new shoes for me. Sometimes he came with nothing but tired eyes. I thought I knew everything about my father. I was wrong. The church service began around 10. St. Peter's Anglican Church stood at the edge of our village in Oyo State, where the dusty road met the tarred expressway. The bell rang 3 times, loud enough to shake my heart. Gong, gong, gong. People poured into the church compound like floodwater. More chairs were brought outside because the hall was full. The choir sang Nearer My God to Thee. Their voices sounded like the wind calling someone home. I sat beside Mama in the 3rd row from the front. Her hand held mine tightly. I kept staring at the coffin. It didn't feel real that my father was inside. Only yesterday, I was helping him drink water with a spoon because he was too weak to lift his hand. After the singing, the pastor talked about my father's good life, his kindness, his devotion to his family. I heard the words, but they sounded far away, like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. Then, as if the day had been waiting for the right moment to break, it happened. I heard a voice behind us, quiet at first, then rising like a storm. Excuse me, we need to come inside. People turned. A woman stood at the entrance, breathing hard, as if she had run a long distance. She carried a little boy on her hip and held a girl by the hand. The boy looked about 4, the girl maybe 6. Dust covered their slippers. Their eyes were wide with fear, or anger, or something I couldn't place. Another young man stood beside the woman. Tall, thin, dark-skinned, maybe in his early 20s. His shirt was tucked in too neatly, like he had dressed in a hurry. His eyes swept the room, searching, shaking. Mama stiffened beside me. The pastor paused. Sister, can we help you? The woman stepped forward. Her voice broke like a pot falling on cement. I am also Emmanuel's wife. Gasps filled the room. Someone shouted, "Eh? Wife coup." The pastor blinked. Madam, please, this is a funeral service. I am not lying. Her voice cracked. Tears ran down her face. She held up a small brown envelope. I brought his letters. His pictures. These are our children. She pointed at the boy and girl, who clung to her wrapper. He used to come to us in Eilerin. He took care of us. Then he stopped coming. I didn't know he was dead. Nobody told us. My ears rang. My fingers went numb. Beside her, the young man spoke in a calm, shaky voice. My name is Sola. I am his first son. First. I didn't even realize I had stood up until Mama pulled my arm sharply. Her nails dug into my skin. Her whole body shook, but her face remained cold like ice that had lived in the sun yet refused to melt. The church exploded with whispers. Emmanuel had another family, Jesus, in Eilerin. And he didn't tell Mama Bisi. Chai, men. On, this is serious. The pastor tried to restore order, but the church no longer belonged to him. It belonged to the truth that had just walked in with dusty slippers and 2 children. The woman cried louder. We were waiting for him. My children keep asking, where is Daddy? Now we came and found a funeral. Why did nobody tell us? Why? I couldn't breathe. Baba. Another wife. Another son, older than me. It felt like someone had opened my chest and poured hot sand inside. Mama rose slowly. I saw fire in her eyes. Pain too. Deep pain she had been carrying quietly like market load. She stepped forward and faced the woman. And you, Mama said, her voice low but sharp. You say you are my husband's wife. The woman nodded, trembling. Mama's lips tightened. For how long? 8 years, the woman whispered. 8 years. My knees weakened. I grabbed a bench to steady myself. Mama blinked hard and wiped her face with the back of her hand. So all those nights he said he was traveling for business. The woman whispered, he came to us. Mama staggered. Someone held her. Anger rose in me like smoke. My father, the man who always told me to fear God and speak truth, was living a lie bigger than our whole house. The church grew silent again, painful, heavy silence. Then Sola, the first son, stepped forward. His voice was quiet but carried a strange strength. We came for the burial because we also loved him. He told us he loved all his children. He promised he would bring us here one day. He swallowed hard. But he never came back. A child in the crowd began to cry. Another woman whispered, "This is trouble." Oh. I stared at Sola. He looked nothing like me, but something in his eyes reminded me of Baba, the tired sadness in them. Suddenly, I felt like a stranger in my own father's funeral. My brain buzzed with questions that had no answers. Did he love them more? Why did he hide them? Was Mama suffering alone while he lived a second life? Tears gathered in my eyes, hot and burning. I wiped them angrily. The pastor tried again to calm us. Let us settle this matter with peace. This is not the time for fighting. But something had already broken. The truth was now out, walking freely between our two families like an unwelcome visitor. Mama whispered, her voice heavy like a bag of cement, "Bisi, let's go outside." I followed her, my legs weak, my heart shaking. As we stepped out, the sun hit my face, but the light felt wrong, too bright for such a dark truth. I looked at the woman and her children. I looked at Sola. And I realized. My father had lived 2 lives. And now, both of them had collided at his funeral. Right in front of me. Nothing in my life would ever remain the same.
The moment Mama and I stepped out of the church hall, it felt like the whole village followed us with their eyes. Some people whispered behind their hands. Some shook their heads slowly, the way adults do when they think a child's life has just taken a painful turn. I felt heat rise in my face, not from the sun but from shame I didn't create but somehow was forced to carry. Mama walked ahead of me, her wrapper swaying sharply with each step. Her back was stiff, her shoulders tight, like she was holding her whole world together with invisible rope. She didn't cry. Mama almost never cried in public. Instead, she bit her bottom lip the way she always did when she was trying not to break. I followed her quietly. My whole body felt hollow. My chest, my throat, even my stomach felt like empty rooms. Behind us, the noise inside the church rose again. Voices arguing. Voices trying to understand. Voices talking too loudly, as if shouting could make the truth smaller. Mama walked straight to the side of the church compound, where a small neem tree cast a patch of shade. She leaned against the tree trunk, but her hands shook when she tried to tighten her wrapper. I stood beside her, unsure what to say. Finally, I whispered, "Mama, are you okay?" She didn't answer for a long time. She just stared at the ground, breathing slowly, like someone trying to keep water from overflowing a full bucket. Then, in a low voice, she said, "Bisi, your father has disgraced me." Her words hit me like a stone. I had never heard Mama talk like that before. She always defended Baba, even when he came home late, or when he forgot to send money, or when he promised to fix the leaking roof and never did. But today, Something in her voice had cracked. "Mama, we didn't know," I said, wishing I could hug her, wishing I could fix something, anything. She looked at me then, and for the first time that day, tears filled her eyes. "He left us," she whispered. "All those times he traveled, he was going to another woman. Another family. And he never told us. He never told me. He left me to carry everything alone." I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight. "Mama," I whispered again. But she didn't let herself cry. She wiped her face roughly with the corner of her wrapper and stood straight, swallowing her pain like a bitter pill. Before either of us could say anything else, I heard footsteps behind us. I turned. It was Sola, the first son. He walked slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal that might bite. His hands hung awkwardly by his sides, swinging slightly. Up close, he looked older than 20. His cheeks were thin, his eyes tired, and his shirt looked ironed but overworn. Mama stiffened immediately. "What do you want?" she asked sharply. Sola swallowed. "Ma. I just came to talk. We have nothing to talk about." His shoulders dropped slightly, but he didn't leave. "I am sorry," he said quietly. Mama didn't blink. "Sorry for what?" "Sorry that your mother slept with my husband. Sorry that he lied to us. Sorry that we are hearing all this today." Each word hit Sola like a slap. He lowered his head. "I didn't come to fight," he whispered. "I only came because he was my father too. I didn't choose this." The words hung in the air. And in that moment, something inside me softened a little. Because Sola wasn't the one who lied to us. He didn't ask to be born into secrets. Neither did his siblings. Baba created this mess. He tied two families to one rope, and now that rope was burning. Mama didn't soften. Not yet. Her pain was too fresh. "So what do you want, Sola?" she asked coldly. He lifted his eyes, and they looked exactly like Baba's when he was tired and hiding something. "I just want peace," he said. "My mother didn't come here to fight. She didn't even know he had another wife. She thought he loved her. She thought she was the only one." Mama let out a laugh, short, bitter, sharp. "He told me the same thing." Sola sighed. "I wish he had told us the truth. Both of us. But he didn't. Now we have to deal with it." Mama opened her mouth to speak, but at that moment, another voice cut through the air. "Auntie, please don't be angry." I turned. It was the little girl from the church, the one holding her mother's hand earlier. She had walked carefully to us, her small feet dusty. Her name, I heard someone say earlier, was Halima. She looked up at Mama with huge brown eyes. "Please, don't hate us," she said in a tiny voice. "We didn't do anything." Mama froze. I froze. Halima wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "We came because we wanted to see our daddy. We wanted to tell him goodbye." Mama's face tightened. She looked away quickly, but I saw her swallow something hard. Because no matter how deep her anger ran, Mama was still a mother. And Halima was just a child caught in an adult fire. Before Mama could reply, Halima's mother appeared, carrying the little boy. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She stopped a few steps away, looking nervous. "I am sorry," she said softly. "I didn't come to destroy anything. I only came because I loved him. I didn't even know he had another home." Mama's eyes narrowed. "How long did you think a man disappears and reappears without having somewhere else?" The woman nodded sadly. "I suspected, sometimes. But he always told me, 'Don't worry, Aisha. I will explain everything soon.' Aisha. Her name was Aisha. Mama looked at her closely for the first time. The anger was still there, but it was mixing with something else: curiosity, confusion, heartbreak. So you are Aisha, Mama finally said. Yes, Aisha whispered. And he married you? Yes. And he never told you about me? Never. For a moment, both women stood there, staring at each other. Two strangers tied to one man's lie. Two wives. Both betrayed. Both hurting. Then something surprising happened. Mama sighed, long, tired, painful, and sat down on the low cement block under the neem tree. God will judge Emmanuel, she said quietly. He left all of us with shame. Aisha lowered her head. Her tears dropped to the ground. Sola looked at me then, and his voice softened. You must be busy. I nodded stiffly. I saw your name in one of his old notebooks, he said. He always wrote Bisi school fees. Bisi WAEC. Bisi's birthday. He talked about you sometimes. My heart stumbled. I wasn't expecting that. He did? I whispered. Yes, Sola said. He wasn't a good man in every way. But he loved you. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. I didn't know if I should believe him. Everything felt too heavy, too confusing, too painful to hold. Suddenly, loud voices rose from inside the church. Someone shouted, they must settle this matter before burial. Another shouted back, I beg leave the woman. She has suffered enough. Another voice added, let the children greet their father. Mama stood quickly. Aisha stood too. Sola tensed. I held my breath. The burial was about to turn into something else. Something big. Something messy. Something we could no longer avoid. Because the funeral was not just for the dead man in the coffin anymore. It was for the truth he left behind. And now, both families had to face each other. Face him. And face everything.